Welcome, welcome. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another live with Hanifa Nayela. I am Hanifa Nayela, and today we have a really good conversation for you guys. Of course, let's go through a little housekeeping first, and then we're going to get right into it. First of all, if you would like to follow me on social media and you are not yet following me, I hope you guys are doing well. First of all, where's my manners? Let me know how you guys are doing in the chat. I hope you guys are feeling well and doing well. I am well myself. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out the way, if you guys want to follow me on social media, you can follow me on Instagram at the real Hanifa Nayela. If you guys are feeling generous, you want to send me your coins, please feel free. The Cash App will be at the bottom throughout the and also my Instagram handle will be at the bottom throughout the conversation. You can always cash out me a $ Hanifa Nayela. And let's see what else I have here. Let me acknowledge all you guys who are here right now. I know Taylor was here earlier. She says she will be tuned in. This is one of my guys right here. Okay, she's Imhotep is one of her guys, always coming with that sound knowledge. The answer for me is yes, if done in the proper manner. Love and action are the missing ingredients. Peace to you, Taylor. And Inya, peace, Inya. Thanks for passing through and always supporting, sis. We have 90 Bafemi. Oh, he said Abibi Hodi race first. Peace to you, brother. Thanks for passing through. And let me see, we have Kwame. Hey, Kwame, thanks for coming through and supporting. I appreciate you guys for being here with us. I am not going to delay any longer because I want to get right into this conversation. So this brother here that I am going to be having this conversation with, I admire. Um I appreciate the work that he's doing in his community. I have a lot of respect for him and his wife, his entire family. And I appreciate the fact that whenever I call on him, he usually obliges if he can. So I appreciate that. You guys are in for a treat because this is a brother that is passionate. He is a warrior in the fight, and he's passionate about his people. So without further ado, I am going to bring to the platform Baba Imhotep. Hey, Imhotep, you
Peace,
hear me?
peace. Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Thank you for being here. How are you feeling today?
I am well and excited.
I am as well. I am as well. I saw Rhonda just came in. I want to make sure I shout her out. Hey, Rhonda. She says race first. I am super excited to get into this conversation. We have Craig in the house. He says, Abibi Fahodi family, race first. Please to you as well. If
It's
you are
first.
here for the first time, I welcome you. Thank you for coming and spending this time with us. If you have not subscribed to the channel as well, go ahead, subscribe to the channel so that you can get your notifications. Next Friday, actually, the rest of this month, we're going to be having some very interesting conversations. And yeah, so subscribe so you can and hit that notification button so that you can get your notification. If you are here and you are lurking in the clouds and you just don't want me to know you're here, the least you can do is hit the like button. Okay, it's free. Don't lurk. Let me know that you're here. We're friendly over here on these sides, so make sure you just let me know that you are in the house. I see my good friend from childhood, Raquel. She says good evening. Good evening to you, Raquel. Thanks for passing through and supporting. We have Wisdom Bars in the house. He says I'm here. Race first is a great start. All right, well, I agree. Let's get into it. Okay, so I'm able to.
Yes.
I have been considering this topic. We know there's a lot of conversation happening right now. And as usual, usually when there how can I say, mainstream media puts, celebrity issues before us, I feel like the community sort of divides in a sense, kind of split. So there's a whole lot of different conversations happening. And so I wanted to have this conversation. And I know that you kind of like lead the race first rally. I know that it's national now. I know it, different people are doing it in different states. And so I wanted to have this conversation with someone who I know is always race first, always preaching race first. So I'm like, who else but Baba Imhotep? So that's why I reached out to you. So what I want you to do first is just tell my audience, for those that, because some of my audience are from YouTube, some of them are coming over here because they're with you. Everyone may not know who you are. Can you tell my audience a little bit about yourself, what you do, who you are?
Yes. Once again, a beautiful Hodier and ways first, and peace, my sister. I'm very honored to be on this platform. And for those who may not be familiar with me or aware of who I am, I'm Baba Imhotep, based out of Baltimore City. I like to define myself as a long-time scientific Pan-Africanist and a race-first warrior. I've been doing this work for our people since 1993. I got on path in 1993, and I've never wavered once. I'm an educator. We recently opened up a weekend school, an African Center weekend school. It operates on Saturdays and Sundays. That's going very well. We have 11 students right now. I've written 5 books, currently working on a 6th book that'll be coming out. Founded a nonprofit youth organization because we like to work with the young people. We have several youth programs that's going on. My wife and I and my son, have put out several books. In short, because I don't like to go through the long line, I think a person just got to listen to me,
yes,
and then just follow me, and they know exactly who I am, because I believe that who you are show up in what you do.
Yes,
I think you can best define someone by what they do. So
yes.
I'll stop there, and I'm very open to answer any questions that may arise as we get into this dialogue.
Yes, and thank you for mentioning that. So, for the listening audience, I can see you guys in the chat. If you guys have a question for Baba Imhotep as we proceed in the conversation, please feel free to put your question in the chat. I will be able to see it. I will highlight it so that Baba Imhotep can can respond. I will take pauses throughout the broadcast to be able to address questions. That way, I don't overlook anyone's question. I see some new people just came in. So we have Cheryl Lee. She says, peace to you, Cheryl Lee. Thanks for passing through and supporting. We have Jacob. He says, hey, everyone. Hey to you, Jacob. Thanks for passing through. We have Jamal Khanna. He says, Alafia family. Hashtag race first. Race first. And then we have Iwa Pele movement. Iwa Pele movement. My brother Baba Imhotep. Bring the heat, my brother. Oh, my. You have a whole fan club, Baba Imhotep. I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's get into this. Race first as a concept, right? Where did that come from? Where did that start?
Now that's the question right there. So that's the operative question. So race first, as a concept or a way of thinking, really comes out of the 1800s. So we're dealing with Henry Bishop McNeil Turner, Alexander Crummell. We're dealing with those guys, and they was considered race men, and they really pushed the concept of race and us being race first. Race first as an assertion became popularized with the Honorable Marcus Garvey. So most of us know race first from Marcus Garvey. He popularized it, and then Dr. Tony Martin wrote the book called Race First, and the book was an analysis of Marcus Garvey's movement.
Okay.
And what he concluded is that Garvey essentially had a race first movement. So now, but what I've done is I've taken race first as a concept and reintroduced it and reconceptualized it. So for us, it's a functional philosophy.
Okay.
Now race first is a functional and operational philosophy, is the way of life. So I define race first as such, thought and behavior that places the social, political, and economic interests, spiritual well-being, and overall material survival of the Black race first to facilitate African sovereignty. So that's the operational definition of race first and the race first movement that I ushered in.
Okay. And thanks for that breakdown because I agree with you. I think most of us, including myself, is familiar with race first from the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I agree with that part. I know that there were some people that were before him, but usually when people discuss race first ideology is usually connected, or he's sort of pushed in the front in the conversation. So one of the things that I've been observing. Okay, so Issa Rae said in one of her interviews, I think she was on the red carpet. She says, "I'm rooting for everyone black." Right? Is that what race first is? Just because someone is black, um, you just get behind them solely based on skin color?
That's what's what's interesting about the question. Let's look at the question like this.
Okay,
Um, do you watch any sports at all?
basketball sometimes.
Okay. Well, let's look at it like this. Most people that's into sports, they root for a particular team.
Okay.
But if you ask them to tell you everybody involved in that team, they probably couldn't tell you. But they root for the team, right? So we must root for us as a team. It doesn't mean that we need to know everybody, and it doesn't mean that we need to agree with everyone's position. But we have to root for us as a team. Now, we will have race traders and we will have Negroes, right? I get an example, like my biological family. I love my family, but there are some behaviors in my family that I do not support and I do not condone. But I love my family. I'm not going to throw my family out the window because there's some people in my family that I don't agree with their behaviors. I still must love my family. So race first becomes, that's why I gave the definition. The definition creates the demarcation.
Okay.
It's thought and behavior that places the well-being in the best interest of us first. That's what it is. So if my actions doesn't put us first, it's not necessarily race. It's not race first. So race first is about being proactive.
Okay.
About being natural and doing that which ensures our survival. That's what race first is, right? So case in point, a black man may go get a white woman. That's not race first because that union cannot push us forward. A black woman may go get a white man. That's not race first. So then the question becomes, so do we support them, right?
Right.
We don't necessarily support them, but at the same time, we don't give ammunition to our enemy because our enemy don't make the demarcations that we make. They don't do that. They still see those individuals as being a part of us. So we got to be careful with what we say because we can give so much leverage to the enemy that it work against us as a whole. So we got to be careful. We have to know when, we have to know when to pick and choose our internal battles. Right? That's what Malcolm X talked about. He said we don't air out our dirty laundry in public. That's what he was talking about. We got to know when to pick our own internal battles and know when to band together and when not necessarily to support someone. We got to learn that. That's just the code.
Yeah, you said I was gonna get to that because I know on your status today. Let me make sure I shout out everyone that just came in. Shout out to Sir Hale Speaks. He said, "Hey there, Hanifa, Nayela. Thank you, Sir Hale, for passing through." He says, "Salute at Baba Imhotep." Let's see who else we have. Jamal Khanna. I think he says, "Ashe, we are a team." Okay, so I think I shouted him out before. Craig Samuels. Salute to you, sir, for passing through. We have Asia Williams. Good evening, y'all. Good evening to you as well. I hope you are sis. um, who else we have here? Asherent. No, Asheret Entertainment, maybe. Ent. I don't know. I'm sorry for jacking your name up, but he says race first, race first. And I think that's everyone. Jamal Kana, Ubuntu. Okay, so I had two questions that came to mind as you were speaking. So I was going to address the. I saw your status, and you said, I think you're talking about code, and you said we need to, number one, we need to know when to band together. Can you expound on that a little bit for me? What do you mean we need to like? Is there a time we don't band together? What do you mean by that?
The reason the code exists is because we already operate, most of us, not all of us, a
Okay.
lot of our people operate from a position of not banding together.
Okay.
So we typically, case in point, a good friend of mine, he shared this with me one time. We was having a conversation, and he was like, "Brother, man, you pretty much out there." He said, "I'm gonna share something with you." He said, Black people have a history of not protecting their leaders. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that I agree with that assessment, but I understand why he said it. Because when we look at our history, we can see our leaders being picked off or being left out there oftentimes. And we also, not necessarily the leaders or those other individuals who just trying to do the work for Black people, we can see them get left out there. When I said we need to know when to band together, because oftentimes what happens is that a person can get mad at me because of something that I said, right? And they'll throw out my 30 years of work, and they'll disconnect themselves from me because they're upset with one thing I said, and they're totally disconnect. And they'll stand by, they'll watch my head get cracked, all of that, because they upset because I said one thing. We got to know when to band together. We got to know to say, hey, I disagreed with Bible on that. Maybe I don't see his position right now, but I know the Bible heart is in the right place. He's fighting for us. I'm going to rock with Bible. Right? So that's what I mean. We need to know when to band together. We get upset at one another and we just pull apart. And we leave each other out there to fend for self. That's why so many of us now say, I don't want to be a part of an organization, or I want to be in a group. Because so many of us have so many bad experiences amongst one another that we feel like we can't get it together. That's because we just not on code. So I put that out there to say, this is a code. We must know when to band together. I'm going to use myself for example. There are individuals that I think are not necessarily as clear as they should be, but they have a good heart. And because they have a good heart, I know when to align myself with them.
Okay.
With them. That's what I mean.
And okay. So the other question I had. So are you saying that race first does not have to be reciprocal, meaning that the other, like you can be raised first, Baba Imhotep, right? And you feel exactly how you feel, but I may not be raised first, right? And you used the word traitor earlier, and I'm gonna need you to define what a traitor is. Like what would you define a traitor as first? You can answer that first, and then what if the race first ideology is not, it's not mutual? So the person that I might be banding with in that time may not necessarily be race first. Does it matter? Or am I just to hold myself responsible? So first define what a traitor is, and then that second question.
So a traitor is anyone who switches sides. They trade on you. That's the traitor. And we have to see ourselves as being in a race war. If we don't process this situation as a race war, our analysis is always going to be off. It's a race war. And it's not just a race war against the Black race and the white race. It's the Black race against all others. Think about it, right? When other nationalities come to the United States of America, they band with the white race. You see them hanging out with the white race, jogging with the white race, running with the white race. Every now and then you may get a sprinkle that may try to connect with us. But the majority of the immigrants of other nationalities band with the white race. So the race war is the Black race against all others. That's the first thing.
Okay.
So therefore, a traitor would be any Black person that leaves the side of the Black and go over to any other ethnicity. That individual has traded against us. If they take resources over there, if they take skill sets over there, and they are among those individuals, they have traded. Now, let me clarify myself. I'm not saying that you can't do business, because I know we still got to live in a capitalistic society. I'm not saying that if you got a restaurant, you shouldn't feed them people that come in there. Your business going to go out of business because we don't support Black business like that, right? So I'm not saying that. I'm saying that when people make political decisions, That's the trading. When people step on the other side, and that Charles Barkley, the race trader. Shaquille O'Neal right now is a race trader, right? What's that? So that's what I'm talking about. Individuals that take a stance against us, right? They're a race trader. Now, okay, people might say, well, what about the ones who trade, Bob, and didn't want to come back? Do we let them come back in? So I know these are all the questions we're trying to figure out, right? So I know the questions. I heard all. Well, what about the ones that trade, man, and then they're trying to come back? You know, what do we do, man? Do we, you know? So, like I said before, I'm gonna answer that question, but I'm gonna answer your second question.
Okay.
Race first as a living philosophy is for race first people, first and foremost.
Okay.
So race first as a living philosophy is for race first people, and the reason why race first is a necessity because it's the only weapon that we have at our disposal that can destroy white terrorism. Race first.
Okay.
Simple as that. Us putting us first and doing for us. It's the only weapon right now. Okay, so I'm going to clear that up. Now, we talk about those who dip off and want to come back. They dip off and want to come back. It has to be weighed. I'm going to tell you why I say that.
Okay.
There's a time in my existence when I sold dope to us. I sold dope, and dope is detrimental. So what if people during that time period who was more aware than me threw me out there? I think we have to weigh the degree of the damage that they have done. And then as a group, we make a determination. But I don't think a person needs to have a revolving door. Right?
Right.
Revolving door. I do believe that some of us are just not at the right place because we're living under white terrorism. And it has created a type of insanity within us. I'm clear about that. So I think it has to be weighed and determined. You know, you might get this one thing you stepped off and you're going to come back. You know, we're going to keep our eyes on you. We're going to watch you. We're going to monitor you. But if you prove not to be of us, then we got to make sure you go back to where you was at.
Okay. Okay. So let me just put this real quick right here. Before I get there, I don't know if you answered the second one about reciprocity. Like if the person that maybe I'm banding with them because they are no, you said they have race first is for race first people, so I think you did answer that. My apologies. Okay. What? This sounds like a really simple. Go ahead, Baba Imhotep.
There's a question that I see that popped up.
Yeah.
And the question said that one right there.
Yes.
So why would a race first person want to be together with a non-race first person? And I think what's being missed is this. I think what we have to understand is not that a race first person want to be with them people. It's that we gotta first and foremost see ourselves as a team, right? And acknowledge that with on that team, there are some individuals that we don't necessarily have agreements with. So that's the basis of race first, creating the demarcation. When we get to the living philosophy of race first, race first is for race first people. So you have to understand it. It's like all these black brothers that watch sports, they know what I'm talking about. If I say, you know what I'm saying, who's the owner? And what's the owner's name? You know what I'm saying? What's the secretary name? But that all of them is a part of that team. Like that business, the Los Angeles Lakers, that's huge. So when you root for the Lakers, you're rooting for that whole team. So that's the point that I'm saying. It's like, granted, we have to first get to a point where we can at least root for ourselves.
Yeah.
And then yes, we can check ourselves, hold ourselves accountable. We can do all of that. But we know when we get to the living philosophy of race first, it is what I define it as being. Thought and behavior that places the social, political, and economic interests, spiritual well-being, and overall material survival of the black race first to facilitate African sovereignty. So anyone that's not living up to that doesn't qualify as race first, as the philosophy.
Okay, so one, I'm gonna pause real quick. A bunch of people just came in. So my ad speaks. She says, "Peace, sis," and Baba Imhotep. Peace to you as well, my ad. Thanks for coming through, sis. That's Iwa. Let me see who else I saw came in. Takia, hey sis, thanks for coming through and supporting. I have another question for you in the chat as well, Baba Imhotep. I want to make sure I get to it. Ene says, "Peace, hey," at Hanifa Nayela. Hey, Ene, thanks for coming through and supporting. Oni says, "Peace and light, sis. Peace and light to you, sis. And thanks for passing through and supporting." We have, oh, okay, Black African Power. I shouted him out. So Wisdom Boss has a question real quick. He says, "What's the statute of limitations on being a traitor? Is there a time frame on when being a traitor is a thing of the past?"
Yeah. So, like, great question. What? So the traitor piece. So look at it like this. I think people who trade against us on a large scale, because trade, when we think about a trader, it's multiple layers to it. I think a person that's selling dope to our people have traded against us in a sense, but I don't think all those ones that selling dope is consciously aware that they're trading. I think some of those individuals in some time period should be allowed an opportunity to get on the right side.
Okay.
And I say that because I use myself as an example. And you have other individuals who once were working against the people, who was able to transform themselves and work in the capacity for the people, right?
Okay.
Now, somebody who trade against us in such a way that caused severe damage to and set the movement back, right? You know what I'm saying? That's that type of person, you know what I'm saying? And then he or she at some point wants to wake up. That's a lot of work that person would have to do to really redeem him or herself. A lot of work. So the statute of limitation, if I understand the question correctly, I think it's, like I said, it's about us understanding the degrees. And I don't believe it's a revolving door. I don't believe a person can just keep on trading and trading and trading. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I believe that some individuals, because I've been doing this for so long and I've been around people, some individuals are sincerely ignorant of their actions. And that's one of the analysis that George Jackson arrived at. If you read his book Blood in My Eye, that's what he said. He said, "I've come to realize that some of our people are just sincerely ignorant into a lot of things." So I think it's a matter of being out there doing the work and not just sitting back, looking at people from afar and making assessments. See, me personally, I'm always hands-on with people, so I can really get a feel for that individual. So I think it's about trying to see the degrees to what's taking place and then making a determination from there. But I do not believe a revolving door has to, no, I don't believe in a revolving door. I don't believe that.
Right, right. That actually is dangerous, to be honest. So I want to make sure that I acknowledge a few other people. Arshan, he says good evening. He says no, he says he's catching up from the beginning. Hey everyone. Hey Arshan. Wisdom Bars, I see your question. I'm gonna go ahead and just give it to Baba Imhotep before I give him my question. Wisdom Bars is asking another question, Baba Imhotep. He says, in your opinion, how many Black people need to be on the race first philosophy? Is there a percentage we need before we start making moves?
No. And I think our questions come from a place of we misposition ourselves. So we already are making moves. So race first is not about come on, get on. That's not that. Like, I'm gonna be very clear. Race first is for race first people.
Okay.
So the work that I do is already being done. So it's not about how many people have to get on board with it. That's just the philosophy that I'm living by. And I'm defining it. So anybody that meet that definition should could do the work. And when you find yourself in the position to link up with like-minded people, then you link up with those individuals. But the work is already being done. The work been done. We can name thousands of people that's doing the work. So, like I said, I've been doing this work since 1993. I have reformed and transformed hundreds of men. You know what I'm saying? I've been in prison and I done worked with murderers and transform them. So the work is already being done. So this is not a plea for people. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a fan of that. If you get on board, you get on board. You know, the work is being done. Like I said, we got a weekend school already educating Black children. That's race first. We got a child care center already dispensing race first knowledge to the children. So no, it's not about a percentage. I think the Europeans think that way, always trying to quantify. Our movement is not about quantification.
I got you.
This is not about quantification. This is about recognizing what needs to be done and then going and do it. And as you see other individuals that's doing it, you link up with them. This is not about trying to figure out whether or not we're doing it. You know what I'm saying? And then judging and measuring ourselves against a standard that has been provided for us by the enemy. No, the work is being done. You know, contact me directly, my brother, and I can give you a whole lot of more examples because I know there's a lot of more things that got to be answered. But if you want to know the work that's being done, reach out to me directly, and we can have that conversation.
And I will be sharing Baba Imhotep's information because he's serious when he said reach out to him so you can have that conversation. And I agree there's certain conversations that just cannot be had in certain spaces. I definitely agree with that. A part of what I'm trying to use my platform for is to bring people like Baba Imhotep. Next week we have Mwalimu Baruti on, and put it before the people so that people can connect with you guys, because there may be someone in Baltimore not even knowing about PLM that's, watch. And they're like, oh my gosh, he's in Baltimore, I got to connect. So that's really pretty much what I'm trying to do here. My question to you though is race first and is somebody who's race first the same as someone who consider themselves black, pro-black? Or is there a differentiation between the two? Or are we saying the same thing?
So realistically speaking, there shouldn't be a distinction.
Okay.
But if a person truly understands what it means to be pro-black, then they're naturally race first. So look at race first like this, because people, we have been conditioned to be so intellectual.
Yes.
So let me break it down, right? The reason there's a need for pushing race first, and the reason Marcus Garvey did it, and the reason that Alexander Crummell did it, is because race first is really a natural instinct. But since we have been subjected to this white terrorism, it suppressed the instinct. Race first is what you do naturally. That's the reason there's a need for it. So the intellectual conversations about it is unnecessary. The reason why we're saying race first is because every black person should naturally want to do for black people first and foremost. That's why race first is a natural instinct. So the reason why we have to advocate it is because that instinct is not operational within black people. It's not operational. We don't do for black people first and foremost. We don't. And that is the truth of the matter. So anyone that's pro-black logically should be race first. Anyone that's Pan-Africanist logically should be race first. Anyone that's Afrocentristic logically should be race first. Race first is just the instinct, the natural inclination. It's the motivation, it's the drive. That's all it is. It's how we should conduct ourselves. That's what race first is. It's like this. You ever watch ants and roaches? Ants will band together and destroy a roach. They will band together and destroy a roach because naturally the ants are going to do for the ants first. That's why the hyena always trying to take from the lioness, because the hyena is thinking about the hyenas first. It's a natural inclination. It doesn't have to be intellectualized. You don't have to try to quantify it. It's what we should do from our center. That's race first.
So, Baba Imhotep, you just said that race first is supposed to be it is a natural instinct. So, can you talk to us about what has happened to our people in this, like in what has happened to our people that have taken away that natural instinct? What
Culture,
can you go ahead?
cultural misorientation.
What does that
Being
mean? Go ahead.
being uprooted from our natural way,
Okay.
we have learned an unnatural way.
Okay.
It's kind of like when people talk about the crabs in the barrel, right?
Hmm.
That's really not their natural environment.
Right.
So that's why we see the behaviors that we see. And we tend to use that analysis, but it's a flawed analysis because
Hmm.
those crabs are not in their natural environment. In
Hmm.
their natural environment, you'll never see them behaving that way. So that's the same for us. We've been uprooted from our culture, and culture is the great human matrix wherein human beings are shaped and fashioned. And when you remove someone from his or her culture, you subject them to another culture. And when
Hmm.
one is subjected to that other culture, it's going to have an adverse effect
Hmm.
on them psychologically and socially. And when
Yes.
we are affected psychologically, our emotions are no longer intact. That's why we infight so much, because we have adult adolescents. That's why that's going on. All the infighting, the bickering, the
Yeah.
always trying to shoot, right? Um, Being so prone to look for the deficit in what we're doing. You know, we're always trying to find the flaw in what we're doing. We never sit back and try to see what we're doing and see how it's good. We got to
Okay.
look for the flaw.
Hmm.
Even our interrogative questions comes from us being culturally misorientated.
Hmm.
We don't ask questions for clarity. We ask questions to try to debunk,
That's true. Hmm.
right? That's because we've been displaced. So that's
Hmm.
why. So that's why we don't behave naturally the way we would and should.
Mm. Okay, so we have Namdi. He has quite a few things. I wisdom. I don't. I think someone may have responded to your question. I mean, Baba Imhotep. He's asking, do you have a 5 point breakdown of what race first means? I think someone mentioned that you went over the definition already in the beginning. And Namdi ex revolutionary. He says having race first is not enough. You got to have an ideology behind it. And what's the ideology that's going to be behind race first? Being a radical Pan-Africanist will help that race first. Do you want to respond to that, Baba Imhotep?
Yes, I'll respond to it because I
Sure.
believe the question is still coming from a place of intellectualism, in my
Okay.
opinion.
Okay.
Um, race. Marcus Garvey and everyone that preceded Marcus Garvey called and advocated race first because they made an analysis of the behaviors of Black people. Black people were not behaving the way that you naturally should behave in relation to one another. So it was a need to help the people understand that you should and must put your race first,
Okay.
right? So that's why. So what I'm trying to get us to understand, I'm saying the race first is a natural instinct, but that natural instinct have been suppressed. We don't naturally do for one another. Race first is not it's not an alternative Pan-Africanist. It's not alternative Afrocentricity.
Mm.
It's not any of that. You know, like I said, if you are Pan-Africanist
Mhm.
and you truly understand what it means to be such, then you are race first by definition. You that by definition. So in
Mhm.
terms of an ideology, anyone that's doing the work of the people, if their ideology is Pan-Africanist, then they can do race first through Pan-Africanism. If a
Okay.
person's ideology is Black consciousness, you know, then they can do race first through that. Race first is what we should be doing. Right? The reason we are calling for race first now is because there's a need to facilitate organization amongst Black people. This organization has led to our continued subjugation and exploitation by all other races of people. It's the disorganization. So the
Mm-hmm.
call for race first is to awaken in us the instinct and the inclination to say, yo, I'm rolling with Sister Hanifa. I like what she's doing over there. I don't
Mm-hmm.
got a whole lot, but I'm gonna send $10 over there to Sister Hanifa, right? That's what this is. You know what I'm saying? We know we got so many people out here that's doing this work. Like you mind if I share something personal that you do for us, sister?
Sure. Sure.
It's like, it's like we was trying to like up and get this school operational, and I reached out to you one time and said, hey, sister, we trying to do this. I think that was 2 years ago. I think it was like 2 years ago. And you signed straight on, and every single month since then, you have been donating to our efforts to open the school.
Mm-hmm.
That's race first. So we don't have to get all intellectual. I'm not trying to be all intellectual. I'm speaking about what we should be doing. What we should be doing that we're not doing.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing this work since 1993. If you about race first, then support the work. Right?
Yeah.
If you don't know me, if you think I'm a fraud, then do the research. And watch the research show you that I'm not a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm 100% legit and authenticated. Then support Bob M. Hotel. That's race first.
Okay. Okay. And I agree with that because one of the things that, I've interviewed you several times with Sister Alkama before, and just watching what you guys do. I've attended the Race First rally, just watching what you guys do with your sons alone, like watching how you and Mama Ife work with your children. You guys are walking, you guys are not just talking, you're walking it out as well. And for me, it's sort of like, you want to find organizations who's kind of like doing the work, like for real doing the work. And that's what you want to support. So I agree with you that that is one aspect of Race First, right? I want to finish up his thing real quick because I know I have some other comments. Because he says, because if you don't have an ideology behind Race First, then in all purposes, Race First is nothing but a hollow saying. It won't have no backing behind it because there's no ideology behind it. Um,
Let me share this with the brother. Real quick.
okay, go ahead.
So since I reintroduce and reconceptualize Race First, my brother, Race First right now is operational in 10 cities. We in Tanzania, and I'm in talks with South Africa. So the ideology piece, I get it. I think you need to talk more to me and really understand what I'm doing. Because I think there's an assessment being made based on how you understand Race First. What I'm doing with Race First is totally different. It's a reintroduction, and a reconceptualization. And in terms of ideology, all that is in place. For us, we have a total platform of Race First. We have 10 principles that we rock from with Race First. The first principle of Race First is Black consciousness. And I define what Black consciousness is. Not just something that's loosely thrown around. So my suggestion would be, reach out to me, my brother. Let's have this dialogue. I can help you understand Race First from this new perspective a whole lot more.
Okay. And okay, so let me just, some people came in the chat. Bamila, Ifag Bamila, Bibi Fahodi, and Race First African Family. Peace to you. Thanks for joining the conversation. Wisdom. Okay, so let me go back. Okay, someone says, Baba, be on it. This person is all numbers. Let me see. I saw Oji Mutulu came in and said, my brother, peace to you, Mutulu. Thanks for being here and supporting. It's technically the same, but now a lot of pro-blacks are interracial dating. Um, you know, I'm just gonna be honest. I think that we can't go by what people identify as, but I think we have to go by their action, because when people say things like pro-black and interracial dating, I feel like that's an oxymoron. And I'm just like, how are we still considering the person pro-black simply because they call themselves pro-black? Like the very foundation of pro-blackness, which is Black family, that person has already violated that. So why are we still even like describing them as pro-black? I see that a lot because that's a conversation where a lot of people are saying pro-black people are now interracial dating. I'm like, maybe we should stop calling them pro-black at this point. I don't know. That's just me. African No, he says, I agree, but there are those who call themselves pro-black and marry outside the Africa. Same thing. Jake, thanks for joining, sir. Jacob says some call themselves pro-black, but they aren't African. Namdi said what even Marcus Garvey said, respectfully, you have to be intelligent. Marcus Garvey was a Pan-Africanist, but he understood race first in terms of Pan-Africanism. Humbly speaking, I think Baba Imhotep addressed that already. Wisdom Bar says he's preaching. Let me see who else is new that came in. I want to make sure I acknowledge everyone. Okay. I saw someone named Serpent. Serpent said, "What's good, everybody?" Hey, Serpent, thanks for joining us. Like I said before, if you're new to the platform and you this is your first time here and you're liking what you hear, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification button so that you can be notified when I go live, which is every Monday and Friday. And stay tuned. We have a lot of interesting conversations this month for you. Is there anything you wanted to respond to before I ask my question?
Yes, because
Sure.
I like to
This
one
one?
of the things one of the things I would like
Oh,
to share
go
with
ahead.
us is when we have conversations, and if the conversation is about the correct thing, then there's no need to inject the incorrect thing in. What I
Okay.
mean is this. This is what I say. I say any person that's pro-black and understand what it means to be pro-black is race first. Logically, race first. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We know people profess many things and do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Our focus can't be the deviance. If we consistently focus on the deviance, then the deviance become the measuring stick that we begin to use. We know we got fakes and frauds out here. But when I speak, I'm not speaking about the deviance. And if anybody know me and you know my work, you would know I'm not talking about the deviance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about the deviants, the ones that say I'm pro-black, but they sleep with white women. I'm Pan-Africanist. I'm sleeping with white person. That's not what I'm talking about. They not even factored in this conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
let's not introduce them into this conversation. Pro-black. Logically, if you are pro-black, you are race first. They are synonymous, right? They're not necessarily against one another.
Okay.
They don't stand in opposition to. A person is Pan-Africanist, who is truly Pan-Africanist,
Mm-hmm.
is race first. It say Pan meaning all, African, all Africans. Africans is the black race,
Mm-hmm.
all the same, right? So I want us to be very clear as we move forward, because oftentimes, because we have been subjected to so much crap in this land, we can be engaged in great conversations and our minds automatically go to the deficit side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want us to not go to the deficit. Stick in the conversation. Seek clarity. Seek clarity. We know you got fakes and frauds out there. That's not who I'm speaking about.
Right. Right.
They're not in this conversation. I define myself, like I said early on, as a lifelong scientific Pan-Africanist.
Mm-hmm.
I say scientific solely to distinguish myself from those who are fakes and frauds.
Okay.
It becomes a distinguishing mark, and that distinguishing mark says that I am practicing pure Pan-Africanism. However, that's clarification. Some of our greatest Pan-African advocates and theoreticians did have white women. We know we are in the evolutionary stage. We're at the place now where you can't be Pan-Africanist and have a white woman. You can't be Pan-Africanist and have a white man. To be Pan-Africanist is to have black man, black woman, to build the family, to build the nation. Right? That's what it comes down to. So think in terms of that.
Okay. So I know you mentioned, I'm gonna ask you to just answer Namdi's question because you mentioned capitalism a little bit earlier in the conversation. And that saying in explaining that we know we still have to kind of function within the capitalist society. I think none of us go unscathed from it unless you live in the boonies. somewhere off the grid. And even then, if you're paying for that, I mean, it's just a lot, right? So they keep us plugged in somehow. So he's asking, can somebody be race first and be saying capitalist rhetoric?
Let me redefine what Baba Imhotep means
Okay.
by race first.
And then I'm going to move on. Mm-hmm.
Race first, thought and behavior that places the social, political, and economic interest, spiritual well-being, and overall material survival of the Black race first to facilitate African sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
Nowhere in African economics is there a place for European capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Let me clarify something.
Okay.
Because I know oftentimes, not to say this is what the position he's coming from,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
many of us think that any interaction with currency is capitalism because we believe the European created the exchange system. But the Europeans didn't create the exchange system. The exchange system comes from African people.
Mm-hmm.
We created it. So when we talk about exchange, Black people inside a capitalistic society without an independent Black nation with an independent Black economy will have to do business together. That's not a push to capitalism because capitalism breaks down to the private ownership of distribution, manufacture, and control of the means of production, right? And the exploitation of labor. Mm-hmm. We don't have to do all that. We have to do any of that to engage in business. So no, me personally, I'm not for Black capitalism. That's not my push.
Let me stop 1 second, Baba Imhotep. Can you tell me so I could put your website in the chat and that way I can continue to repost it? What's the website?
So the website is being right now it's under review. So I guess the best thing they could do is go to our Facebook page.
Which is
it's actually Pan-African Liberation Movement.
PLM, okay.
Yes.
They have to spell it out?
Yes, spell it out. Yep.
Okay.
Pan-African Liberation Movement. That'll get them to, the Facebook page and they can get it. And from there they can get to Instagram and stuff like that. But
okay.
Yeah.
So guys, you can check touch base with Baba Imhotep on Pan-African Liberation Movement on Facebook. I'm going to continue to post it in the chat for people who are just coming in. And Oni, I see your question because she's asking about the Race First Connect in South Africa. She wants to hear more about that. But before we get there, Baba Imhotep, okay, so one of the things that I'm struggling to understand, and this is me personally, there are some Black people. I'm just gonna be honest, Baba Imhotep. You can help me out here. There are just some Black people that have they might say they might love Black people, but they have like a totally different ideology from, let's say, like a Pan-Africanist ideology, right? Maybe they're Christian. Let me do that. Maybe they're Christian. And I do have a difficult time, right, in working with people like that because there is this thing around like African spirituality, the demonization of that. There's just so many different things that just makes me cringe that I find it difficult to work with people from certain belief systems, even though they say they have a love for their people. So for me, I'm just like, okay, is race first possible with people who have strong belief systems, like let's say a Christian or a Muslim, where it's just like you have to believe in Christ or Allah? Is that possible to work under the race first umbrella with people like that?
So that's a great question.
Help me out.
I think one of the things that Malcolm X taught us that's very important is he talked about history is best qualified to reward all research.
Okay.
And I bring that up to answer your question. Okay. If we look at the brothers and sisters during the time period of, let's say, 1954 up until like 1968,
Okay.
they made some significant gains in things that they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And within that mix, you had brothers who didn't necessarily share the Christian doctrine, but they figured out ways to work together.
Okay.
And I think part of the work that we do, we can never compromise being race first. We have to be race first. But I think part of the work that we do, we can find, excuse me, 1 minute.
Okay, you're fine.
Work that we do, we can find those, we can determine, find points where we can tactically align ourselves to achieve something that's pushing both of us forward.
Mm-hmm.
We are split as a people across so many lines in terms of our ideological outlooks.
Yeah.
We don't have to be in close proximity. We don't have to convert over or convert over to us. We don't even have to speak to each other the next day. But if there's opportunities where we can find those fine lines where we can link up at, that's going to prove to be prudent for both of us, then we have to find ways to do that. We have to find ways to do it. And for those who may wonder, see, race first is not about us being afraid to work in concert with others. And it doesn't mean that if you race first and you work in concert with other Black people that are trying to help Black people, they just come from a different position. That's not a bad thing, right? Like, once again, it's degrees there, and we have to weigh what it is. You got some Black people to feel like this: I'm gonna help us, I'm gonna do dirt first and help us. No, I'm not gonna lie with that. I don't believe in that philosophy. You got some Blacks to say, you know what? Well, the means justifies the end. That's not us. That's white thinking. Right? I'm not working with that. But if it's just if it's really some sincere Christian women that want to help Black boys, and they reach out to me, and I'm already doing race work with Black boys, and they really want to work, I would talk to them. I would find out exactly what they want to do, how they want to do it. I would lay out my position that I'm going to stand on. And if they could get with my position, then we will work together to achieve that particular end.
Okay. Thank you for that, because that's one of my little struggles, Baba Imhotep. I was just trying to be transparent there. Okay, so we have Crypto Vault. He's saying, hey, Crypto Vault, thanks for passing through. His response is, race first without African spirituality. Kemetism is doomed.
Listen, the statement is an assumption that is not involved. And that's the point that I make, right?
Okay.
That's an assumption. Like, it wasn't even a question. He didn't even question and say, is African spirituality involved? That's an assumption.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying, right? We have been so misaligned that we don't ask questions to push things forward. We come in as an attack. If you know anything about me, my brother, I stand 1,000% in African spirituality. 1,000% in African spirituality, and I know it very well. But that's an assumption again. You know, race first without. You're assuming. Don't make assumptions. And we do that too much. And we have to stop being so destructive of one another. And that's the point that, you know, I've been trying to get across on Facebook. That's why we need to band together. That conversation that we're having tonight, there's nothing negative about this conversation. So why can't you just come on to it, hear the conversation, and add to the dialogue? Why come on to it with the attempt to try to attack it? That's what we do. You know what I'm saying? No, African spirituality is a part of everything that Baba Imhotep does. Everything I do is spirituality. I've been to Kemet. I've been in the pyramid. I'm very clear about the whole Kemetic philosophy. I'm very clear on the Dogon philosophy, the Igbo philosophy, but Shona, the Dinka. I know all of that very well. Don't make assumptions.
Hmm. Well, you're helping me here because God knows I mean some things I've been holding on to. Like I don't want to work with those people, you know. I'm being honest. Where it's like no, no, no. So maybe I'm a little too radical in my thinking sometimes. So this conversation is actually really helping me because my wheels are already turning in my head to where I really have to go back and like assess some things within myself. Reading and writing in the dark. He says, Hanifa Nayela, peace, my sister. He says, peace to Baba Imhotep. Peace to you. Reading and writing in the dark. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for being here with us. Baba Imhotep, did you have any more to that list that you started on Facebook? I think I only saw number one, which is know when to band together. Are there others written down somewhere? Please do share.
So the so the first one, so the second one is never side with the enemy against another black person.
Okay.
Right? Now, by black, we know there are degrees again. We're dealing with degrees. So what I mean is this. There are black people that's doing good work from their perspective that I may not agree with.
Yeah. Yeah.
The enemy may come after them.
Mm-hmm.
I would never put a post up. I would never do a live talking about them.
I got you.
Do that is to side with the enemy, even though I may not necessarily agree.
Yeah.
Even if the brother or sister said something that was incorrect, I would not go live and I wouldn't post about it because me doing so adds strength to the enemy. What we need to be clear about is that there is no politically neutral grounds in a race war. There is no grounds that you can stand on that's politically neutral.
Okay.
Anything we say going to work with us or against us. We can't just say, well, no, this is just my opinion. Opinions are political.
That's a good point. Yep.
Opinions are political. We can't just say, no, well, listen, I may not agree, but this is just my opinion. It's political. And it's going to aid the enemy. So we need to know when to keep our mouth shut. If you need to say something in regards to what I said, then inbox me like a man or a woman and have a conversation. Don't get an enemy to ammunition against me. That's how we get our brothers and sisters assassinated, because the enemy is smart. They use their media to put out there the differences that they have with one of us to see how many of us are going to speak against us. So they know they can come out there and assassinate us because we show them that we also are in disagreement with our brother.
That's true.
That's how Malcolm got assassinated.
That's true. That's true because I think even on social media and even in these spaces, I think that's like people have these the avatars, and you don't know if it's a black person. You might think it's your brother or your sister that you're going back and forth with. I was talking to my husband about like virtual Cointel Pro at this point, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm like I don't know why we think Cointel Pro is a thing of the past. Like now everything is online, virtual. I truly believe that there are people that come in who are apps and they just cause like division, like in the conversation, in the chats and so forth. And people literally think they're talking to other black people. And then it ends up this whole back and forth live. So I agree with exactly what you're saying there. So talk to me about our children, because I know we've talked before and you were saying that you don't believe in, and this is still around race first and teaching our children race first, because you talked before that we be trying to protect our children from the reality of the system of racism.
Yes.
Talk to me about teaching our children race first. How should we go about doing that?
Tell them we have to tell our children the truth. So I'll give an example. So like with the weekend school, we on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and we on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So I have two students there that pretty much When they came, they was kind of, reserved or whatever, but after a certain time period, they really got into and started really like, loving the school. And we've only been open for approximately like 6 weeks so far.
Okay.
So one of the things I asked all the parents, are you race first? Because the parents had to understand what race first was all about.
Okay.
And we've had that discussion. But what I tell the children is this: you live in a society where everybody are organized according to a race. Even the white child that you may see at your school, or that Arabian child or Pakistani child, are organized in accord to their race. It's your duty, black child, to think about your race, your mother and your father, your brothers and your sister, and think about how you're going to add to pushing us forward as a people. Right? And then I go through some basic examples. I ask them, what are your aspirations? And they each tell me their aspirations. Great aspirations you have, young lady. Do you know you need to, if you want to sing, do you know you need to sing for black people? What do you mean? Yes, you can't just sing anything. And if you have a great voice, they're going to try to get you to sing anything. You have to sing for us. You have to sing in such a way that it motivates us to go forward. The young man that want to be an architect, you have to design buildings for black people. You have to design with black people in mind. So this is how I talk to them about race first. Think about your race first. Mm-hmm. When you wake up in the morning, you think about your family. And then as you go out into a larger community, you think about your race. But at the same time, I help them to understand that everybody that's black isn't always good.
That's true.
I help them to understand that too. I don't send them out there blindly. I help them to understand that there are some people amongst us that look like us that are not good people. And we need to know those individuals and be able to discern them when they're in our presence. There going to be some young people that's not good. And I ask the question, are there black bullies in your school? Yes. Has someone tried to bully you? Yes. That's case in point. If that black bully is not corrected early on, that he or she will grow up to be one of those black adults that's not good for us. And I give it to them like that. And they get it. And they get it. If we go over it consistently, I let them know it's going to be a repetition. We're going to talk about this. As long as you're in this school, we're going to talk about what it means to be race first.
Okay. So I have a question in the chat, but I did have a question about. I'm gonna go ahead to Nova Rain. I see Yapo. He came back. Oh, hey, wireless woman. Thanks for passing through, sis, and showing some love. I appreciate you. Yeah, she says. Wireless woman says, not all black bodies have black minds. We have Iapo. He says, thank you. I specifically write for black people only, no one else. Thank you for saying that, Baba. Okay. Nova Rain ask a question: should whites think race first? I'm not asking if they do, because, and by the way, in the Tony Martin book that you talked about race first, he talks about how Garvey felt about this, but I'm gonna let you answer this. He says, should whites think race first? I'm not asking if they do, because many do, but should they?
So before I answer this question, my answer is not sarcasm. My answer is not disrespect.
Okay.
My answer is none of that.
Okay.
But it's an error in thinking for us to even try to analyze what they should or should not do.
Okay.
White people are never my concern. They're never my concern. I could care less what they do. Right? My principal concern is black people and how to organize black people against what white people have unleashed against us. The white terrorism that they have unleashed upon the world, I'm organizing against that. That's my only concern. My concern is never white people.
Okay. I will be putting Baba Imhotep's information again in the chat for anyone that wants to reach out to him. They do have a weekend school. You guys have a summer program as well, Baba Imhotep?
Yes, we got a summer
Asafo?
program. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Do you guys do rites of passage as well?
Um, yeah, yes and no. Because the
Okay.
way we tend to do it, I believe in those of us over here, we've been removed from our culture so much. So for me, I don't think a 6-month program or even a 12-month program is truly sufficient. So what
Mhm.
we do is we got what is known as the Asafo Development Program, which is a manhood preparation program for boys.
Okay.
But if we get your child or your child at age 7, we want your child with us until he is 15.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
want them always, right? Because they need that. Like, because if you turn a child loose after 6 months and they don't have a community to go to
That's true.
reinforce what they received, it's going to be undone when they go into the other community of people that they're going to spend their time around. So we haven't built that insulator, that protective covering for our children. So what we do, our program, one of them for ages 7 to 15, their SAPO development program, we go from
Mhm.
7 to 12, then 13, 14, and 15. You know,
Mhm.
we want your child an entire time.
Okay. So I know that you just mentioned number one was know when to band together. Number two, can you repeat number two again?
Number
Um,
two, yes,
never
number two says never
don't
side with the enemy against another black person.
never side with the enemy against another black person. Is there number three?
Always put your race first.
Always put your race first. Okay, how many do you have, Baba Imhotep?
So I stopped there, but it's gonna once it's done, it's gonna be 10 that's gonna make this up. And
Okay.
it's going to be worked out very well, and it's going to be something that we can all use, and it can get us on the same page on some basic things, because that's
Okay.
what it's about. It's about trying to get us on page with some basic things. We
Okay.
all of us who have did any form of reading and studying is very much aware of how our deficits, but we gotta move away from pathologizing us. So we have pathologized black. And that's why, Garvey said race. That's why they pushed race. Because in this land, we tend to pathologize us.
Mm-hmm.
So what this, this race black code is designed to do that I'm developing is to give us a framework that can at least get us on to a basic page together. And then
Okay.
from there, we can begin to move out and develop out. Granted, we know there's a whole lot of things we need to work through and discuss. I'm not saying we don't. We have to do all of that. But we can't keep shooting at each other because we've had bad experiences. Our bad
Okay.
experiences can't become the lenses that we look through. Because when your bad experience become the lens that you look through, you are myopiatized.
Okay.
You are successfully myopiatized.
Mm-hmm.
When your analysis comes from your hurt and pain, when your assessment comes from your hurt and pain, right? You myopiatized because you're gonna stay on a treadmill of just always finding negativity and pessimism, and there's no growth there.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And I see some other questions. I see Ashan, I see Namdi as well, and I see Iyapus. I'm getting to you guys shortly. But Imhotep, I'm glad you brought that up because I know I was talking to a friend of mine, and I know that there's a lot of conversation, social media, specifically in the YouTube space, and I'm just gonna say this. I know men like you. I know men like I just know different like men who are Pan-Africanist in their thinking, right? And when I got into the YouTube space, my little bubble got popped, right? I found out that there's actually black people in America who don't believe racism exists. That's why I learned this here in this space, right? My little bubble was popped. I'm not gonna even front. But one of the things that I had to realize is that I'm in listening to some of the black men in the space, young black men, I'm talking 20s, early 30s, speak. You hear a lot of them, they come from like the hood, like you was just, describing, like they know friends of theirs who were killed, right? They know people who were hurt from that environment. So when they have the conversation, it's off, you can hear the pain, right? And so for them, it's like race first. So you hear things like, when I needed help, white people are the ones that helped me, not black people. Black people robbed my mother. Black people broke into my car. How do we, and I don't know if we should, right? But how do we get those type of people on board with the race first piece? I don't know if we should try. I mean, you can answer that.
I will say this. I could never do what you do on YouTube. Like what you do on YouTube, you are extremely great at it. You was great from the previous show you was doing, and you're great now. I can never do it. It's not my personality.
Yeah.
What I'm good at is connecting with brothers and sisters that have been damaged and hurt. And I know how to get in there. You know why? Because when they tell me that a black person done this to them or done this to them, you know what I tell them? 2 black men shot me in the back with the intentions to kill me. So don't talk to me about what black people have done to you. I still carry the wounds on my body. I got a 45 on my spinal cord. I was paralyzed for 18 months. So don't tell me about what black people have done. I was there. You can survive it. You can grow above it. And the moment I share that with them, they ain't kind of listen now because they realize that I understand. And I say that to say this. The work that we do, it's not for all of us to do this work across the board. We got to do the work that we do the best.
Yeah.
And know when to call each other in. That's what it comes down to. Like in the military, it's a certain time when the what they call themselves, the SEALs get called in.
Yes.
Time. That's what we gotta learn. Everything ain't for me to do. I'm not the YouTube person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You go there.
Yeah.
I'm a different type of organizer. And so once we understand it that way, so when we meet those kind of individuals, we don't necessarily have to discount them out. We need to send them to somebody that's a specialist in their field and let me determine if they can be the Let me determine that because I've been there. See, and I'm gonna have a different type of patience and tolerance because I was there. Whereas you won't have it because you wasn't there.
Yeah.
The same with the drug addicts, right?
Yeah.
I'm the same way. Don't talk to me about no heroin. You know what I'm saying? I used heroin from 1988 to 1994. I used heroin. So I know all about heroin. So don't talk to me about that. You don't need it. I haven't used heroin since 1994. I haven't thought about it. I haven't smoked a cigarette since 1995. Right? So I know about all these things. So I'm the individual that can relate to those kind of people because I was them. And I can show them that you can overcome. You don't have to become a hostage to your pain.
Okay.
Right? Because when you become a hostage to your pain, you begin to do the bidding of the pain. And the pain that every black person suffers, even if the pain was inflicted by a black person, we suffer the pain of white people. Because a black person hurting another black person is an instrument of the white person that warped his or her mind, that have driven him or her crazy enough to hurt another black person.
So my question to that is, how did you, what considering what you've experienced at the hands of other black people, like you just mentioned, how did you not hate black people, or did you at some point? How do you not hate us today, Baba Imhotep? What miracle happened?
I wanted to kill him for 8 years.
Oh, okay.
It took me 8 years to undo it because I knew them personally. They wasn't random people. They were people that I was hanging out with, who was running together, who was partying together. So from 1988 into 1998, 89 to 98, I wanted to kill him. I had some serious work to do on myself. Until I realized that A true African would never seek to harm and hurt and destroy another true African. When I realized that, I knew they didn't know any better. And I was able to move through it and move past it and open myself up to go on and do the work that I've been able to do.
Were you helped by other brothers as well, Baba Imhotep?
No, I did it
Oh,
all on my own.
okay.
Correction. I was introduced to reading in 1992 by a brother named Thurley Sheffield Bay. I was incarcerated and I was on lockup at the time. He asked me to do him a favor, and I said, "What favor? What you want?" Because he was an older guy. I was young.
Okay.
And the favor, he wanted me to read this book. And something inside me said, "Man, go and read the book." And the book was called From Superman to Man. And that started me. Like, he was the only person in my incarceration that I actually encountered that I had like instructive conversations with. But after reading that book and man departed, everything else, it was all on me. I did all this work myself with the ancestors.
Yeah.
Directed and guiding me to the books that I had to read, to the types of behaviors inside of me. I had to kill and destroy. I had to kill different tastes, attitudes, and desires. So much work I had to do to get to a place of Africanity. But once I arrived there, I felt so light.
Okay. So I'm gonna get I know we got about guys, you can ask your questions. Let me see. Namdi said, so what about African young girls because they're under attack as well? Is there a program for them also? Because I know you mentioned the program for the boys.
The girls are under attack. That's a great question. Currently, we don't have a program for the girls, but there is. We are conversating about it. We haven't figured out how to do that. If all goes well, we will probably have something for the girls in 2023, the summer of 2023.
Cool. Okay. Arshan asked, is race first a response to oppression, or is it an enduring principle that stands outside of imperialism? If there are only black people, do we then do some other division first?
So if I'm gonna answer his questions from the back.
Okay.
So even if it's only black people, we still gonna just look out for us, and that's still race first. We're still gonna think about us as a collective, and that's still race first. Is race first a response to oppression? No, it's not a response to oppression. It's a proactive measure set in motion to reactivate a natural inclination within black people. So naturally, before we encountered white people, we thought in the mindset to look out for ourselves. So we just trying to get back to that original state of thinking.
Okay. So I see James. He says, hey, James, if you leave out the impressor in your analysis, it will always be incomplete. Amos Wilson, the black criminal, is a representative of white supremacy. Thanks for coming through, James. He says, comrades. Let me see what else. All right. So we have Yapo says many of us are reactionary and think only on the surface, looking at the effect and never examining the cause. But examine the cause and keep digging, and you will get to the real enemy. Okay. I see Tiffany's in the house. She's saying, "Hey everyone, peace and love to you, Tiff. Thanks for passing through. Appreciate the answer." Ashan is responding to you, answering his question. He says, "Appreciate the answer. Makes sense." Baba Imhotep, why don't you tell us? I know Oni wanted to find out about, you mentioned South Africa, and she wanted you to expound on that. Yes. So go ahead and tell us about what's happening in South Africa.
So currently, what's happening in South Africa? So I'm in conversations with a brother that's linked to another group there, and based on our time, I think we're probably like 6 hours. They're like 6 hours ahead of us where he's at in South Africa. So we haven't been able to have a consistent meetings, but They have been submitted all the race first paperwork. They've been able to examine it, and they are in alignment with the ideals, the principles, the definition, the platform. And we're just right now just waiting to have our last and final meeting to make sure that they are okay with executing it according to the way that we say things should be executed.
Okay.
And once we finalize that, and then they will go forth and find a location where they're going to have it at in South Africa. We will be able to get the flyer developed. When we get the flyers developed over here, and we'll start promoting it for next year. But I would say this: I'm very I'm highly inclined to say it's going to happen in South Africa.
Okay.
The conversation is going very well. They're a very enthusiastic group of people. So I think that we're going to be good, and that'll put us on 2 places in the continent with the race first. Tanzania, we did our Tanzania this year, and it went well. It was beautiful in Tanzania.
Okay.
In Zanzibar, so it's moving and it's growing. And like I say, many people they hear race first and they think that I'm saying exactly what Marcus Garvey said. They think I'm just making an assertion. No, I'm actually redefining, reconceptualizing, and reintroducing the concept as a living operational philosophy. So when it comes to thinking about the European, you know what I'm saying? So we're not making any assessments that doesn't factor, you know what I'm saying, with the European destruction into us as a people. Like I just said early on, any pain that Black people have, even if that pain was caused by another Black person, essentially it's the pain of white people. Right? So the white person is never let off. It's never let off. You know what I'm saying? In my analysis, they always in my analysis.
Okay. Okay. Crypto. And I'm gonna ask a question that I'm annoyed. I'm even gonna ask the question. I'm gonna ask it anyway. Okay. Cryptoval says, not his question. My question is what I'm annoyed about. I just want to make that clear. Cryptoval says, where does Black economic empowerment fall overall? I guess in this conversation.
So, Black economic empowerment.
Looking I guess as it pertains to race first.
I'm clear about I'm clear about that. Okay. So let me try to help them understand how I think. Okay. Right. The idea and the concept of economic, the concept of political, all these concepts that divide up a people's way of life, I don't subscribe to them. Now, so when we think about economics, you got to think about culture. So I'm gonna do it from the perspective of how it's done. A people's way of life encompasses everything that the people need to survive, and the people are going to organize their way of life in such a way that promotes their best interests. For Black people, if we're going to use this European terminology, economics, right? For Black people, it would have to be a type of system that's cooperative and collective, right? We cannot proceed from the position of individuals, even though even going into business, we do what? Sole proprietorships. We have to kick that out the window. If we're going to get into business, we got to develop the capacity to trust and go into business as groups. I'll give you an example. Right here in Baltimore City, there's a place called Cash and Carry. It's called Cash and Carry. It's in the heart of Baltimore City. It's a big warehouse. It looked beat down. It looked run down. What it is, it's a business that's owned by the Koreans. It's a place that all of the small Korean stores go to shop. It's set up the same way Sam's Clubs is set up, or B Greens. It looked just like a Sam's Club. It's owned and operated by the Koreans. It's called Cash and Carry. The reason being, if you're not a Korean, you can only spend cash in there.
Wow.
If you're a Korean, you can use a card, or you can set up a credit account and come in and get your products and roll out.
So is that legal?
Yeah, it's in Baltimore.
That's legal? They can do that? Isn't that like discrimination? No?
if you set your business up in the heart of a depressed community who
Okay.
don't have a clue what's going on, because most of them on alcohols, drugs, and sexing, they're not even gonna pay attention to it. We have been orientated to be oppressed and exploited. We have normalized it. So I normalized. So that's that. So I use that example to get back to where I'm at to answer this question. So for me, it would have to be a total system. And that system, in terms of our goods and services, would have to be something that's cooperative. It takes trust. It takes a lot of work, but it's doable because we've done it before. So that's how I answer that question.
Okay. So I know we're gonna be wrapping up soon. Okay, so can you tell me some steps that is necessary to get um gosh, to get black people on board around this race first, to rally around this race first ideology, this race first concept? What are some things that need to be happening? Because right now, every time that we see black people try to, not all, because I know some organizations or groups that they're doing it, but they're just there's a small group, right? Is it okay? Let me ask this question instead. Is it wrong for us to look for progress in mass, or should we be focused on working with a few like-minded people? Because I think most black people think in mass because it's like we want to affect change now, and the idea of like this little small group over there, this little small group over there. How should we approach this as far as
We,
race first?
we look for mass because once again we're using another person's measuring stick,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have a clear conception of history. So
Okay.
think about Cuba. If you use Cuba,
Yes.
right? Castro and Cuba and his crew, was able to effect the revolution, but it was initiated with like 80 people.
Hmm.
If you do the history, it's only like 80 of them. They organized in Mexico, and they left Mexico and went to Cuba. But the first time they attempted the revolution in the early 50s, it failed, if you will, and they all got captured. They
Okay.
was tortured, put on trial, and convicted. But then Amnesty International got involved, and that Cuban government kicked them all out to leave the country. So they pretty much reconvened in Mexico. That's when they met Che Guevara in Mexico. He organized, did some training, and set sail and came back in the later part of the 50s and had a revolution. But it was only about 80 of them that landed on that island. So we don't need masses to determine that we are making progress.
Okay.
Right? But we're using the standard of white people, because what white people have been able to do, and it's effective. They've been able to use their media and always display their quote unquote gains, and we see that a lot. They might say it was a sold out this, it was sold out this, it was overpacked, it was this, only standing room only, right? And we become fascinated. So when we do our stuff, we want that. And if we don't get that, we feel like we are unsuccessful. And then over time, we stop giving energy to it, we stop pouring into it, we stop supporting it, right? Because we are still chasing an ideal that was created by the enemy. Right? For me, it's never about that. You give me one person and you're gonna get 100%. What I gave tonight, I would have gave if it was just you and I talking. If it was just you and I, you would have got energy and intensity. Because it ain't about all the people. It's about the individual who show up in that moment. That's who need whatever you have to give. Right? So no, we don't need everybody. In terms of getting people on board, the rally itself is the strategy to pull people in.
Yes.
Rally is not the end all be all. That is just the political strategy that we're using to attract people. Because of the rally, we are in 10 cities in the continent. If I didn't use the rallies, I probably would not be in 10 cities within 3 years. Right? But basically, the first rally was in 2020. We did 2020, 2021, and 2022. And now we're in the place. If I would have did the rallies and I just would have just did some lectures, talking about
Yeah.
race first or whatever, I wouldn't be in Tennessee. I wouldn't have been hurt. It was the rallies,
Okay.
right? So it's the rallies to get
So,
people win.
so for the people that are listening, can you tell us across the nation what states have had their race first rallies so
Oh,
far?
so yes, so Rochester, New York, Buffalo, New York. Uh, we was in Louisiana in this year, but Louisiana won't be moving forward with us. But
Okay.
we did do Louisiana, Philadelphia,
Mhm.
Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Baltimore, Maryland, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And Zanzibar also was this year.
Tanzania. Okay. Oh, Tanzania was this year. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So and I'm gonna start to wrap up. I want to make sure that I hit it's because I'm gonna let you summarize this and answer the question once and for all. And I want you to do one more thing, Baba Imhotep, for those who just came in. I'm going to need you to go over the definition of what race first is again, okay?
Yes.
Because I think that that's very important. That everyone understands exactly what you're speaking about when you say race first. Let me see if I have any other questions. I think I saw someone came in. Oh, Real Truth Power. Real Truth and Power. He says, race first from Brother Everett, Baltimore, UNIA 106. Peace to you, brother. Thanks for passing through and showing your support. He says they use their propaganda. We need to use our propaganda, our media outlets. People are afraid of race first, and it's a shame. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so Baba Imhotep, can you tell us what race first is for like the fifth time tonight? Just for those who didn't hear it in the back, can you please let us know one more time?
Yes. For a point of clarity for those that may be coming on, the
Okay.
definition that I'm going to give is the definition that I have created. This is the definition that I, with the assistance of the ancestors, conceptualized to go along with this reconceptualization and reintroduction of race first. So the definition is very simple: thoughts and behavior that places the social, political, economic interest, spiritual well-being, and overall material survival of the Black race first to facilitate African sovereignty. So what I'm saying essentially is that everything that we think and do should put us first. But the reason we want to put us first is so we can get the African sovereignty. That's basically what it's saying. And you can use the definition as a measuring stick to judge all behaviors. You can use that definition to judge my behavior. Do I think and act in the best interest of Black people, socially, economically, and politically? Am I advancing the best interest of Black people spiritually? Do I think about the Black people and their overall material survival? Am I pushing for African sovereignty? That definition can be used to guide you. You can live according to it, and you can use that to place it against other people. So we ain't always got to worry about who say what. You ain't got to keep on saying they say this and do that. I gave you a definition you can use. Do they match the definition?
Mm-hmm.
If they don't match the definition, then you just got to keep it bopping. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You said and this is the question I was trying to avoid asking, but I'm gonna ask it because this is a good example because this is kind of like trending right now. So you have someone like a Kanye West, right? Who you might look and say, like, I'll use myself. You know, there's certain things that he has done, right? That to me I would consider traitorous. And so I may have said, he not for us, right? But then he's in a position now where you have, which I think a lot of Black people may have felt the same way I did, and then he went as far as wearing the White Lives Matter shirt and all of this other stuff that he's done. And I think there are some of us who may have felt with the same way I felt, and then this thing happened, and so now all of his partnerships and all of these things are kind of being pulled from under him. And so people are now having his back now because they're like, we need to stand up against the powers that be. So for me, this fluctuation, this back and forth where it's like, no, you traitorous, and then it's like, no, but I'm gonna get behind you because I'm having a hard time with that, Baba Imhotep. Like, how do you approach, first of all, how do you approach a situation like that? As it pertains to, like, I know this is celebrity, but I just needed to ask the question because I know that's kind of trending and that's kind of like on a lot of our people's mind. How do we approach something like that?
I believe for us as a people, we have been hurt in so many ways, and we don't have enough spaces to get stuff out. So we are a lot of people are talking about what's going on. It's because they hurt. They need stuff to say. I'll say this right here, right? This is how I feel about a person like a Kanye West.
Okay.
Before this whole situation that he's in, that's going on now,
Yeah.
I never made a comment about him at all. I'm gonna tell
Right.
you why. Because Kanye, like most of them, are in fact a brand.
Okay.
He is a brand, and his brand needs the controversy. It needs the stuff that he do, right?
Okay.
That fuels his business.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so happened now he's in this particular situation with these Europeans. But all the antics, the White Lives Matter and so on, all that old stuff right there, you know what I'm saying? Granted, from his point of view, he may feel like, it was justified, so on and so forth. But for me, it's him trying to push his brand. And I don't want to give any fuel to his brand, right? Me personally. Now, in terms of him, going over to the white race with the white girl and all that stuff like that, knowing that one of his parents, I'm not sure which one, but I know one of his parents was affiliated, if not both, was affiliated with the Black Power movement. They come out that mode of thinking. So I know that Kanye has been introduced to some aspects of what's going on with Black people in the USA.
Okay.
But I also know that Kanye is a businessman from this particular white perspective.
Okay.
Right? So do I think that he has behaved traitorous? Yes, I believe that. Am I a fan of Kanye? No, I'm not his fan. Will I come out and talk against him? No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. Because if I was going to say anything about him, you know what I'm saying? I don't need to add to what's going on right now. Me saying something against that brother isn't going to help what I'm trying to do. It's me saying something right now isn't going to help, right? Me saying something, even though my analysis may be correct, right? It does more damage than good. My open statement and my analysis against him and his status where he's at does more damage than good to us as a people, because my analysis will in fact help the enemy. So I can just, rather than offer that analysis openly, I can just call you up or hit you up. Hey, let's have a conversation, sis. And me and you can talk about it. Or I can say it to different people, right? Me doing it openly will not help us as a people. In my thinking, the way I move, all my decisions and actions must help us as a people.
So now you done took me somewhere else now, and I'm about to wrap up, but you took me somewhere else. Is there a time that, all things considered, race first, that we should speak out against people who are traitorous? And what comes to mind is pedophiles, for example. Is there a time that, as a people, even though we're race first, that we have to openly, perhaps, expel, someone publicly, depending on what maybe the crime is? Or do we just not do that at all? I just want to be clear on that.
Great question. And I think that, and that's why I say I can never do what you do, because you're good at what you do. The questions are needed because the questions helps to bring forth deeper clarity.
Yeah.
So yes, there are times
Okay.
when we should do it openly.
Okay.
Certain individuals and certain people, they just, by right of what they have been able to achieve, whether they did it all by themselves or with the help of the enemies, they just in a different bracket. And because they're in a different bracket, it harms us. Now, because we're not as organized as we should be to have the collective impact against them that we really want to leverage against them.
Okay.
Most of what we're saying is coming from our personal hurt and letdown. So we just venting. So I'm not a person that vents. I don't move like that.
Okay.
Right? So now someone touches our baby girls, our baby boys, pedophiles, right? We got to cut them down. No, there is no favor that individual because that person have drawn a dark line in the sand. He or she have shown us that they are not with us, right?
Right.
Bam. You know.
Okay.
Yes, we gotta deal with that instantaneously.
Okay.
It has to be dealt with. You know. So in those instances, yes, you know, you got to come out. And I do believe there are instances when people who are in leadership positions should lend their voice to situations. I do believe that as well, right? Okay. Because people want to hear the opinions of people who they believe are informed. I want to hear your opinion on this, right? Mm-hmm. So I do believe there are times for that as well. I think that as strategists and as tacticians in a race war, we have to be able to also assess our own analysis in a greater scheme of things and ask ourselves, will my analysis push us forward, or will my analysis be more in the likings of the enemy? We got to be able to ask that question. And I believe me right now going against Kanye, right, don't push us forward.
I got you loud and clear, Baba Imhotep. And you have helped me tremendously thus far in this conversation, more than you know. So I'm just going to run through some last questions, and then we're going to wrap up. Nova Rain says, socioeconomically, politically, economically, wasn't the point for Black people to separate from those antithetical white institutions and systems? I don't know if you want to respond to that.
Yeah. So
sure.
If I understand the question correctly,
I'll go back up.
I try to be clear when I talk. And I know we be wanting to get so much out. For me, like where I'm at with my understanding, from an African perspective, you do not break up what we call economics. You don't break up what you call social or political, right? So we're using their language so we can communicate. Right?
Oh, okay.
So we're using their language to facilitate a conversation. But I'm not advocating for their way. Well, this is not an advocacy for their way. I'm using a language that we can get. The language that I would want to use that I know most people wouldn't be able to follow is just in GAA2. I would say in GAA2, which is our way.
Okay.
See? But if I get on here and just kept on saying in GAA2, most people wouldn't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
So I'm going to use a language that you understand to facilitate a conversation, but I'm not advocating for any of their institutions. I'm advocating for our way.
Okay. So Quantum, she says, Baba. Hey, Quantum Love. Thanks for passing through. Good to see you, sis. Thanks for always supporting. Crypto Vault says, I think Kanye West is an embarrassment to the Black race and its ancestors. Iyapo says, when it comes to things like that, sister, Hanif, I feel that is how our people are caught in the trick bag. I don't know the answer either. Nova Rain says, without economics and conventional politics, what's the best way for us to organize ourselves and the division of labor? Who should do what? I feel like you sort of spoke to like finding your lane, but I don't know if you want to respond to any. Okay.
Read that question again, please.
Without economics and conventional politics, what's the best way for us to organize ourselves and the division of labor? Who should do what?
Okay, see, like that question, I'm going to answer that question, but that question is solely coming from a white perspective.
Okay.
Solely. Now, this is no insult or no attack against the person that said it, but I need to make this analysis. Okay. Help us out, right? When we say economics, right? What about economics and conventional politics? We're already in their lane. I'm not advocating for their lane because what we define as being economics is really social. I give an example. Take the best business you can think of, the one that's thriving, that's selling everything. and you put that business in the desert and see if that business still thrives. It can't thrive without people.
Mm.
So people is at the base of what we call economics. So what we need to organize is a strong social system. A strong social system. And then out of the social system, we can determine how to distribute and manage the resources within that social system to maximize the development of all the people within that social system. Right? We don't got to worry about a division of labor because we all are going to fall in and work for the benefit of all of us. But to get there, you need culture because culture lays the groundwork, the foundation, the values is in the culture. So we keep talking about economics and politics and leaving culture out. In essence, all we really need is to truly understand our culture. And all those other pieces come together.
Mm-hmm.
Njia. N-J-I-A. Njia. Yetu. Y-E-T-U. It translates to mean our way. We had a way of how we did what we did. We must recover our way.
I'm glad you bring. Yes, I will be bringing Baba Baruti on next week to talk exactly about that culture because that is the missing component. At least since I've been in this space, I'm just like, we are talking about culture.
Yep.
You are not changing behavior without changing culture. What is the culture is producing what we're complaining about. So how do we change culture? That is the conversation that we need to have. So yes, I'm glad that you mentioned that. Novaren says, sure, go ahead.
That's a word. Many of us are familiar with the word acculturate.
Yes.
Many of us are not familiar with the word enculturate. So I'm adding that to your last question. To get us to change cultures, we have to be enculturated. We have to be reintroduced to our culture.
Exactly.
That's enculturation.
Okay. Kanye, he says Kanye has beans for brains and a desperate need for a lithium prescription. Lord, Novarin, you going in on Kanye. Iyapu says it also begs the question of was the course of action against traitors at the beginning of the Haitian Revolution the correct course? Now, I wanted to say to you when you was talking about Cuba, right? And you were talking about like they lost and then they went back, and you're talking about like 80 people. And one of the things that I realized, and I think this is partially because of the film Tariq Nasheed kind of made 1804. People have this idea that the Haitian Revolution was like this 1 year, 1804. But when you read the history and you read the books, this thing was almost 15 years in the making, right? And 1804 was the climax of it. So a lot of people are like, oh yeah, this happened in 1804, but this had been a build up to that. That revolution had begun way before 1804. So there's a whole lot of things that happened leading up to 1804. So when you talked about Cuba and the 80 people, I think that we get caught up in the numbers because when we see things like the Haitian Revolution and so forth, we are only seeing it from the angle of the climatic part of it, right? And not like the work that went in to reach into that point. And so, he's, oh, you want to answer this? He says the action against traitors at the beginning of the Haitian Revolution, was it the correct course? Lord have mercy. Baba Emotep, you could take that one.
I believe, like I say, in our situation, there are going to be some instances when some individuals are going to do some traitorous. I'll give an example. I was incarcerated. I like to use real life situations to make my point. I was incarcerated, and I met some really strong, young warriors that I was able to bring into the knowledge, and they doing the work. But these warriors had a badge on them, and the badge was, but they was young. They was 14, but they made a mistake, and they slipped the lip, and they had told on some, told.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they told, not because they was cowards or rats or snitchers, they told because they wasn't properly inducted into the game. So they didn't understand the rules.
Okay.
So when the peoples got a hold of them, they made a blunder.
Okay.
They made a blunder. But when I got these young brothers and they would work with them and talk to them and work things out, I realized like these guys wasn't really rats or cowards or snitches. They was just young. And the older people who put them out there, they didn't properly break the game down to them.
Mm-hmm.
So some people, not all, some people are going to do some traitorous stuff sometime. And it may not always be because they are traitors in their thinking. Some things you can do unintentionally, it can't be undone. You have to eat that consequence.
Yes.
I think it's a matter of us figuring out what's what. I'm not saying that a traitor should not be dealt with. I believe all traitors should be dealt with if, we weigh the case correctly, and see what's what. So that's what it comes down to. I don't think that, we should have an open door policy for all traitors, but I do know I've been in situations. I'm 51 years old, and I've been around for a very long time. I do know there are cases, not a lot. There are cases when people tend to do things that's not the best. You shouldn't have did that, brother. But you can work with them. So it's like it's a give or take. I would say.
Okay. So Alkama says the difference between an ally and a friend as it relates to Kanye. I guess she's looking at Kanye as perhaps an ally, versus a friend. Okay. Namdi says Kanye is a sellout, and that's the thing we're talking about. When you think about race first, don't you have to get rid of the sellout? And you can answer at any point, Baba Imhotep. I'm just kind of running through them because we're at our mark. What about the discourse among ourselves, though? A lot of us are attached to celebrity culture. Alkama, okay, harboring a pedophile. Let me see if I passed anyone else. In order to understand the culture, Cryptovault, in order to understand the culture, you must understand the language. Esherent said, Mama Marimba, Annie told us our culture is our immune system. Yes, she did. James, we're still in the revolutionary process ourselves.
Can I respond to that?
This one?
Yes.
Sure, go ahead.
The brother is 100% on it, and we don't recognize that. We are in the revolutionary process. Revolution goes through stages. You have your high peaks and your low dips. It never moves in one tempo. We are still in a revolutionary process. That's where we are at. We're just right now at a low dip, and we're trying to create a resurgence of the necessary consciousness, because consciousness is what compels motion. And consciousness can be quantified and qualified by the motion. So you always can determine a person's level of consciousness by what they do. Their behavior tells you how conscious they are.
That's
so
true.
We are in that revolution. And yes, I believe that, some individuals are sellouts and they should be left on the outside. I'm not saying we let sellouts in. That's not what I'm arguing.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the definition is going to tell us who these peoples are. And I'm saying there are some situations where some individuals, just make blunders. I don't believe he's making a blunder. I believe it's all a part of what he's doing, in my opinion. I don't think he's one of those particular ones. But I don't believe that my analysis of him publicly helps us as a people. I don't believe it. I can give my analysis to you individually about him.
Okay.
I believe my analysis right now helps the enemy.
Okay. Yeah, I got what you're saying. Gail at Night, she says, please like, share. Make sure you guys, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe, share the live. If you feel like donating, my cash app is $ Hanifa Nayela. Harmony says, Baba. Oh, you are so loved, Baba Imhotep. Baltimore is in the house, okay? James, that's why we check their records. Politics. Iyapu says he thank you for your answer, Baba and Sister Hanifa. Resurgence. James says resurgence. Okay, so Baba Imhotep, I'm gonna go ahead and let you wrap up. So in closing, is race first enough for Black unity? And I feel like you answered this throughout, and I am very clear on what you are describing. I know you have helped me tremendously. I really need to deal with my ego around working with my brothers and sisters who actually love Black people. They just kind of have like, we have some difference in our approach and probably even possibly ideology. But like you said, the example you gave, and you said, if you have a Christian that's like, I want to work with boys, I have this to offer, it's kind of telling them the type of program you're running. And if they can get on board with that, why would you refuse the help? So I totally understand that. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. No, he does not, Gail. But but Gail is asking, she's the moderator here, one of the moderators. She's asking if you have a channel or social media I can share. Gail, he is at Pan African Liberation Movement on Facebook. That is his and I've been putting it in the chat throughout social media. So it's Pan African Liberation Movement on Facebook. So Baba Imhotep, in closing, wrap it up for us. Is it enough? Should we maybe at least be able to rally around that before we even get to the other things? And you made some really valid points today about like publicly speaking out against, knowing when to band together, never side with the enemy. That's a big one. Never side with the enemy. No matter what you think about the person, your brother or your sister, you never never side with the enemy, with a publicly or what. So in closing, is race first enough for us to unify under? And if so, please give us some tips on, because you done told your story, you've been through some stuff and some processes you had to go through. If it is, please give us some tips on how to put our differences aside and rally around race first.
Okay. To answer the question first and foremost, do I think race first is enough to organize us? I believe it is enough. I know that it's enough. Mm-hmm. When we look at our history in the USA, all our major advances, group advances, not this celebrity entertainment type of stuff, mm-hmm. but our major social advances came at a moment when we elevated race. Look at the history.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
Right? But the history shows us that.
Yeah, it does.
The nation of Islam is as successful as it is because of its race philosophy. The Black Power movement, right? The Harlem Renaissance was down Black. The Garvey movement. You can go all the way back. You get in the 1800s. Every time we made those significant jumps, even the Black abolitionists, right? They had to break away from the abolitionist movement. And when they broke away from the abolitionist movement and became just the Black abolitionist movement, you saw the major thrust. History tells us that when we elevate who we are naturally, we make progress. Mm-hmm. So I know it can do it. The reason why it's being reintroduced in this new era time is to facilitate the development of consciousness. Okay. Because our consciousness is really low. And because the consciousness is low, it incapacitates our ability to unify. We can't come together because our consciousness is fractured. So we need something that's going to facilitate the development of consciousness. I added 10 principles with race first. The first principle is Black consciousness. Right? The first principle is Black consciousness. The second principle is Black pride. The third principle is Black solidarity. The fourth principle is Black socialization, Black economics, Black politics, Black ideology, Black defense and protection, Black survival, and then Black empowerment. So those are the 10 principles that I'm talking about. And then we have 7 laws to race first. The first law is simple, right? Self-preservation. That's not the first law, but that's one of the most basic laws. Self-preservation, right?
Yes.
So what I'm saying is that if we can rally around race first and be open to sit down and have a dialogue with the principal organizer and understand what I'm saying, we can move rather than believing you understand what I'm saying and start shooting at it. Have the conversation and let me truly show you this operational living philosophy and what it can do and what it has done. Right? If it couldn't organize us, how was I able to organize in 10 cities?
Right.
Right? How was I able to organize from 10 cities to the continent?
Right.
And watch in 2023 how many cities be on board. So if it's not viable, how is it doing what I'm saying it's supposed to do? We're saying let's get organized. That's the only thing we're saying we want to do with race first. We're just using it as a means to organize us. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Yep.
That's it. And so if it's already working, there's no need for us to keep on saying we need to do this or do that. I'm showing you that I have something that's working. Why not just say, well, how can I help this brother out and keep that going because it's working? But we'll be talking to somebody that's doing something that's working, and we'll still say we need to do this. Not even realizing how disrespectful that is to the person that's actually doing something that's working.
That's a good point. Yep.
You know?
That's real, Baba Imhotep. Like that is so true. It's like we're like stuck in a loop, where you're actually talking to someone who is doing and still talking about what we gonna do. And it's like you're talking to someone who is already making these things practical. What kind of, it's like we've programmed to constantly be like, well, we're not doing anything. You know what I mean? Or the people who are doing stuff, we're programmed to find fault. Try to scrutinize what they're doing. So I agree with that as well, Baba Imhotep. You know what? I am going to wrap up, guys. I want to shout out the wireless woman for her Cash App. I appreciate you, sis. Thank you for the Cash App. Baba Imhotep, I appreciate you for giving me the time, giving me your energy, and your passion today and sharing it, allowing me to share it with my Facebook, my YouTube audience. Again, guys, Gail posted Baba Imhotep's Facebook link. So you guys, you want to connect, you might be in the Baltimore area, you might be in Maryland, you want to connect with Baba Imhotep, please make sure you check out his Facebook page, follow him on there, get in touch with him. He means it when he say that. And maybe actually some of this, I asked him to list the cities because in case maybe there's one in your city. I heard my friend Ashan is in the chat. There's one in Ohio. You said in Philadelphia. I mean, these are places that people that frequent these platforms reside in. So, all right. So, Baba Imhotep, I appreciate you. I thank you. And I'm going to let you go and go back to your family because we are way over time. But once again, I'm probably going to bring you back again, but I appreciate you for coming and giving me your time. Do you have anything you want to say before you say goodbye to us?
Yes. As a people, let's be very careful not to pathologize ourselves. And let's be very careful not to take a posture with one another that can harm us in ways when we are trying to do good. Right? Let's find out how to work together. Let's look for that. Let's look for those points where we connect that. Because we can look for those points where we connect that, we can get a whole lot done. Most of our dialogues, even in our organizations at times and our religions or groups, most of our dialogues always end up being antagonistic towards one another. Some kind of way it becomes that, right? So my message is this: let's strive to be more affirming with our dialogues, right? Let's try to figure out how to come together. When we talk about African thought, African thought is principally symbolic and synthesis. Like this analysis crap that we keep talking about, You know what I'm saying? Analysis is way down here. That's them. Granted, we can engage in analytical thought, but
Yeah.
we're basically driven by symbolic and synthetical thought, right? We seek to bring together. We seek to bring it together. So that's the position that I come from. I will answer any question. You know what I'm saying? But just be honest in the questions that you ask. But as a people, we have to take a position that affirms the best in us. Let's not pathologize deficits that pop up here or there, because those deficits does not constitute what it means to be a black man, a black woman, or African people.
You guys heard it right here. Thank you so much, Baba Imhotep. I am going to be sitting with everything I've heard. I needed this for myself. And you've just kind of re-energized me, and I appreciate it. Thanks again for coming out. I'm going to go ahead and drop you down. Guys, if you want to get in touch, hit the link that Gail put. Oh, okay. Gail is saying, Baba, I mean, Nyoko?
Yes.
Nyoko. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Small world, by the way, small world. But yes, if you guys want to hit up Baba Imhotep again, hit the link that Gail have posted in the chat and get in touch with Baba Imhotep. You might be able to facilitate Race First rally in your city. Who knows? So Baba
I'm
Imhotep.
open for that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so you guys heard it. Get in touch with him. Thank you, Baba Imhotep, once
Thank
again.
you. I enjoyed myself.
Me too. Thank you. And I'm probably going to try to bring you back. So hopefully, you're able to come back. Peace and blessings to you and the family. I'm going to go ahead and let you go.
All right.
All right, Baba Imhotep. Okay, guys. Let me know in the comment section once the video is, once the video is done, once I stop, just let me know in the comment section your thoughts on the video. Make sure you like. If you haven't subscribed as yet, make sure you subscribe. I'm still looking at you guys in the chat. Oni says thank you for raising the vibration with tonight's live. Thanks for sharing from Ashan. Gail, I appreciate you so much. Gail, it's a small world, by the way. There are people on here who we know the same people, by the way. It's very interesting. Yeah, so it is really a small world. I learned that very quickly. Kwame, he says, thank you, Baba. Thanks for passing through, Kwame. I appreciate you guys. Who else we have in here? Okay, hosting this powerful dialogue, Madupe Pupo Baba and Madupe Iyafa. Hosting this powerful dialogue. I appreciate you for showing your love and passing through. Again, if you guys want to get in touch with Baba Imhotep, they have a really good organization in Baltimore. They are about educating their children. They actually have a school down there, and on top of that, they also have the weekend school, and then they also have the Asafo summer program. So guys, if you're in the area, get in touch. Okay. Oh, you do? Alkama? That's my sister. She says, I know Alkama too. We've been Facebook friends for years. Oh, that's my big sister, Gail. That's my big sister for real, for real. Yeah, wow, small world. Definitely a small world. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So guys, I'm going to be wrapping up. She says, rest well, everyone. Thank you for the different perspectives. And Iyapu says good night to everyone. Peace and love, peace and blessings to you guys. Make sure you guys tune in. For the next 3 Fridays, we're going to be focused on Black love. So I'm bringing people who are married couple, married men, to discuss different aspects of Black love. We're going to be discussing the effects of media, social media on Black love with Sir Hale. Brother Iyapo is going to come to us with his beautiful wife. They're going to talk to us about Black love from the angle of creating and cultivating peace in your Black love relationship. And then we have this Friday, we're bringing back Mwasha, which is Brother Mancho and Nwasha. You guys have seen them here before. They'll be back this Friday, and they are going to be talking about reciprocity and respect within Black love. So make sure you guys tune in. And then next week, Monday, we have Elder Baba Mwalimu Baruti, who is going to be here Monday to talk to us about the significance, the importance of culture in Black liberation. So make sure you guys do not want to miss that. But this whole rest of the month, I have a lot of good conversations coming up. So yeah, she said I saw her post of your wedding on her, and I screamed with happiness. Congratulations. Thank you, Gail. I appreciate you, sis. Thank you so much. Hey, Kwame. Yeah. So make sure you guys tune in, hit the notification button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can get your notification. I'm still going to continue to blow y'all spots up. I know y'all going to get sick of me, but I'm sending you guys in your inbox again, letting you know what's coming up. Okay. So make sure you guys tune in on Friday. If you are in a relationship, you're married, you're interested in being in a Black love relationship, you make sure you tune in on Friday. Okay? Until next time, guys, thanks for hanging with me. Thank you for giving me your time and your energy today. But until next time, which will be Friday at 6 p.m., peace and blessings to you. Enjoy your night.